Hey folks, this is Matt once again, and at number 34 of my 69 favorite horror films, it is the original April Fool's Day from 1986, which I know is not a great cover. I actually like the cover for the movie better. It was like the poster where you have the woman looking this way, like see her back, and you see like a noose in her hair, and you see like all her friends on either side in April Fool's Day. I thought that was a better one. But, you know, they had to redo it, I guess, for some reason. Make it seem like a new film. But, I love this film to death. I think it's one of my favorite slasher films, which is, well, I'll get to that. But, first off, it's directed by Fred Walton, who had previously done When a Stranger Calls, the original, which I thought was a pretty good flick. Especially the beginning. The first 30 minutes are very tense, and I think he brings a lot of that to this film. The story is pretty simple. You have Deborah Foreman, who is one of the leads in Waxwork, as Muffy, who, it's spring break, and she's sort of a rich girl, and she brings her friends to this island where her family owns this big house at. They don't spend spring break there. And basically, like the Agatha Christie story, and then there were none, they start being gone one by one. And that's all I'll go into because the film has some good surprises, which I'll get into more detail, but I'll, major spoilers, I'll let people know beforehand. But I love this film to death for a number of reasons. Number one, like I said, I think it's well directed. I think the director knew what he was doing. And it's sad because after this he sort of got just into TV movies like Dead Air with Gregory Hines. I think he's like a disc jockey. And, like, there's a killer. There's also, he did a sequel, When a Stranger Calls Back. A bunch of other TV stuff. Which is sad, because I think this is a solid directing job. There's a lot of good, tense, creepy moments, which I'll get into more detail amongst the other spoilers. The cast really do an excellent job, as well as you get some above-average dialogue. For instance, there's a character played by Clayton Rohner. You saw him in G vs. E. He was in a film called Destroyer. Clayton Rohner has been in a few other movies and TV shows. He's like a character who wears sunglasses a lot. I consider sort of a sexaholic. He has this video camera and he's like, "Hey dude, your fly's open and your hostess Twinkie is hanging out." I thought that's a nice line. Never heard it put that way. Well, for instance, he's talking to this girl who's sort of, not uptight, but she's very much into this novel. He's like, "I like reading too." He posts a porn book, and it's like Treasure Island, and points to a woman's crotch. It's Treasure Island, the history of pornography in America. I thought that was, you get some good dialogue, you really do, and first and foremost, I love this cast. This is, I think, for me, one of the best casts for a slasher movie. I think so, wholeheartedly, for me, in my opinion. I want to get the names because I think these guys deserve it. For instance, you have Amy Steele as the lead girl, who I loved in Friday the 13th Part 2. She does a great job here as Kit. Her boyfriend is a guy named Rob. I think the guy's name is Ken Olandt. Yeah. Unfortunately, he's the guy in Leprechaun as well, unfortunately. But here, I liked Amy Steele. She was strong, she was sensible, and she was likable. Her boyfriend, he gets there late, and Clayton Rohner says, he was telling everybody their fly is open. He tells it to him, he's like, "Yeah, right." And if I list down, his fly is open, so he has to put it up there. You have Thomas F. Wilson, Biff himself as Arch, and he has his buddy Skip, played by I think Griffin O'Neill. I want to get his name right because again I think these guys deserve it. Yeah, Griffin O'Neill, who is related to Muffy. He says this is her cousin, and they play the game where you put the knife and you try to stretch, and if you fall over you lose. And all these characters and all these actors do I think, an above average job. As opposed to a lot of slasher films, I really like these characters. I really enjoy hanging around these characters. They're very funny, and Skip and Arch, Thomas F. Wilson, and Griffin O'Neill, they play a joke where they're sort of fighting back and forth, and Thomas F. Wilson, Biff, sort of gets pissed and throws a knife and supposedly stabs him, and he falls into the water, and they jump in. Then he actually had a rig, he's April Fools. And one leads to another, and one of the other guys who was in there, who sort of works for the ferryman, he's going to put this rope and help, them land, but he gets hurt, and his face gets all fucked up on one side. Like, heavily damaged. And I'm like, oh shit, and I really like Griffin O'Neill's performance. He actually seems very upset about it. It's not one of those things that's like, it disappears in 5 seconds. Like, he's actually upset about it. He's like, very down about it. He's like, he didn't mean anything by it. He didn't mean for that to happen. But I think these are real characters, with above average dialogue and above average performances. And I think it's well directed in the tense sequences by Fred Walton. And I think the score for this film by Charles Bernstein, who did the score for the original Nightmare on Elm Street, I think he did it for Cujo as well. I love the score. I think this is definitely one of my favorite scores. This is probably one of the creepiest scores I've heard. It's that whistle. That whistle really gets to me. Creepy score for me. I mean, I always loved it since I was a kid. It really gives a good ambiance to the film, that whistle. But it's very well acted. You have beautiful photography of the island and of the location. Above average cast. And this is a very solid film. Now I can't really talk about the rest of the film without going into details of some of the sequences I like. So, here's major spoilers. I like the film a lot. So, okay. Now I'm getting major spoilers. More stuff I like about the film. I like... When I talk about creepy sequences, there's a lot of them. For instance, first off, some funny business in the first half of the film where they get to the island and they sort of get Joe's plate on him, so Thomas Wilson sits on a chair and it makes him fall back, and one guy sort of sounds like a Texan type of guy, has an accent, gets these cigars that he stole and he just kept stealing them thinking no one's looking. He puts it and it explodes in his face. Amy Steele and her boyfriend Rob, Ken Olandt's character Rob, he turns off the light and then it turns on over here. He has to get up, turns this off, and then turns this on. And then turns that off and gets back on. Right over here on the light. And he has to just get it and burns his fingers, gets the light off. And then also some of them sort of get these sort of weird things in their rooms. Thomas Wilson opens his cabinet and there's drug paraphernalia. One person has these paper clippings. One of the girls, the one who was sort of reading the book when Clayton Rohner showed her the Treasure Island, she hears a tape of a baby crying, and she gets a little bit pissed off, and you find out later it's because she had an abortion, so that really affected her, so, she doesn't know what the hell's going on. But the second have some really tense sequences, for instance, when in the third act of the film, when it's Rob and when it's Amy Steele's character, they're in the basement, and she finds these dolls, these fucking dolls, and she's like, what the hell's this? And it's recreation of the murders, and it's almost like there's a little mystery, which I actually kind of like the little mystery. It's not deep, but it doesn't have to, and she's sort of figuring out what's happening, and she can't get his attention because he's looking off camera somewhere. And she's like, what are you doing? Oh my god. And it's like one of those paintings with like the eyes cut out and like there's eyes just staring back at him. And of course, you know, I thought, stuff, because earlier you had seen that painting and the eyes going back and forth and he took it off and it's one of those like Felix the Cat type clocks. Oh, and I think they painted like yellow or orange, probably for copyright so that they would have to pay. It's a yellow cat, it's an orange cat, it's not Felix. For instance, like Amy Steele's locked in a room and she's trying to open the door and it was an April Fool prank before, the doorknob is off and she's like, oh shit, you know what to do next. Or you just have a lot of solid sequences of suspense and tension. This is a film that's more about that than gore, because there is no gore really and there's no nudity, not really at least. Why is that? Because one of the best things about this movie, which is why I mentioned major spoilers before, this is all major spoilers, it's the ending. I love the fucking ending to this movie. I love the ending to this flick. Because it is so original for how they do these movies. In 1986, when slasher movies, you know, basically it's now Amy Steele and the Rob character left, and they think that it's actually his evil twin, Buffy. That was a little mystery they were trying to solve. And Amy Steele's trying to escape. She walks into her room, and there's all the fucking people there. They're still alive. And she's like, huh. Ha ha ha. She's like, oh, that's not really funny. Like, yeah. She says, like, yeah, that's really funny, really funny. Fuck you. And they all laugh, like, April Fools. So, the reason you did not see people, you know, gore is because it was an April Fool's joke. Meaning that everybody they were not in on it from the beginning, but when they were picked off, then they had to join the party, so to speak. And the whole idea is that, and that's also funny because like Rob is trapped, and like he's like, I love you, like tell Amy Steele through the door, I love you. And there's the guy who you thought was hit with his face was fucked up. He's like, I love you too, babe. And like takes his makeup off and puts on his face, and you know, Rob, I wouldn't blame him. He's yelling like, what the fuck? And he runs off, and you know, he gets scared, and they laugh at him. He's like, yeah, really funny. Like, now the whole idea is that Deborah Foreman is going to have this place inherited, and only if she can keep it afloat with the taxes and stuff. So she's going to turn into like a country inn, but like a whodunit every weekend. And she wanted a rehearsal, and she used her friends, and they didn't know about it until, boom, you know, they got caught or quote killed. And it's just really original idea. I think a lot of people got pissed off about it. Because, like, that stupid fucking slasher DVD that pissed me off, I forget what the fuck it was called, Rise and Fall of the Slasher Film. The motherfucker on there blamed this movie for the fall of the slasher film. This one fucking movie caused the fall.